Hey, how are you doing today? So, I've kind of been thinking a lot, and I've had, I think, maybe an epiphany. So, I've been considering for a while, but really more just the last couple days, seriously considering changing my name. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's wrong with the name Raul Benavides? That's been your name your whole life. Everybody knows you by it. And it's your legal name, and it's just difficult to start over. However, one advantage that I just thought of right now, I hadn't even considered this before, was that it could help me evade my employers hacking my medical information or doing whatever it is that they did to get it, paying off the HIPAAs and or the providers. I don't know, but at any rate, maybe it would give me a fresh start, because that would mean Raul Benavides was in the hospital with an IV drip of Ativan in his arm and restraints on a bed. And now if it happens again, it's Raul Goodman. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So anyway, but it's like it happens to two different people. So anyway, so Raul Goodman is the name I thought of, because Goodman is just, this is, okay. So I have a few reasons I've thought of this. One, and this is really this is the catalyst for it, is that I want to reflect the changes I've been undergoing in my psyche and spiritually. And I am really influenced and inspired by Ram Dass. And Ram Dass, his original name, I was so surprised when I learned this, because I had seen all 6 seasons of Lost, and I had no idea who Richard Alpert was in real life, IRL. I didn't even know he was IRL. Okay, I mean, yes, they named a bunch of other characters after different philosophers and scientists. Frankly, I think it was a bit ham-handed. It was a bit ham-fisted, and I do not like that normally, but I was a sucker for that show, even if it was a bit of a mess, and it was. But Richard Alpert was one of Timothy Leary's collaborators during the 1960s, the counterculture, the student movement. And then he went through a spiritual transformation, which of course was originally connected to his use of psychedelic compounds, but he ended up going more just the route of meditation and traditional spiritual practice from the East, mostly. But he was very eclectic, and I'm an eclecticist myself. I really am. I do base most of my ideas, though, on what God tells me himself. And God told me, if you change your name, you change your life. And it didn't make any sense to me. What does that mean? That doesn't. Why would one lead to the other? It seemed arbitrary, to be honest. And I did learn about the law of identity, or the law of non-contradiction. I think those are the same thing, which is kind of silly if you think about it, because how can the law of identity also be the law of non-contradiction at the same time and in the same way? It contradicts itself. It's a paradox. In fact, it's more than a paradox. It is an intractable contradiction, in my opinion. Maybe the laws of quantum physics allow for it. Probably. I would have to assume so. But it does seem like at least some sort of linguistic impasse that we have yet to have solved. And I don't know. That is beyond my pay grade. I really don't get paid very much at all. So pretty much anything is beyond my pay grade. Oh boy. I need to get back on that health insurance again. Even if it was very meager. Medi-Cal is great because you don't have to pay anything for what you do use, but very few doctors accept it because, I mean, why would they? It compensates them very poorly. So anyway, I was thinking about this more in meditation with my beads. I didn't call them the other thing this time, thankfully. I'm growing. And I was thinking, Goodman, that kind of reflects how I think of myself or how I would like to, but I also don't know what is good because I didn't learn about Spinoza's ethics, as I mentioned once before in a previous vlog. But anyway, so they don't cover ethics in the introductory philosophy chapters, unfortunately. So still kind of a bit out to sea with that one. But if I name myself that, maybe that will help put me in the right frame of mind. It's, fake it till you make it is what they say on some of the videos I've seen on TikTok. And speaking of TikTok, so I was thinking, okay, so at first I just thought that would be a great name, Raül Goodman, for moral and spiritual reasons. And it just had a ring to it that it just rolled right off the tongue. And as I've learned more about the gravitas and rhetorics and how it's important to have words that roll off the tongue. You want to speak naturally. You don't want things to be clumsy and forced and difficult and burdensome for no reason. It's silly. So because I can change my name and call myself whatever I want, because this is America, except there's a legal process to it. It doesn't matter what country you're in, unless you are in international waters. And then pretty much anything goes. Although you might get caught eventually, just FYI. But anyway, so I was talking with my friend. I won't mention her name because I'm not trying to put her on blast. But to be honest, at this point, she might deserve it just a little. But she was like, Raül Goodman? That sounds a lot like Saul Goodman. And I thought about it. And I was like, I've been saying it to myself, but when I wrote it, it actually did look a lot more like the name Saul. And it's also funny because I wasn't even thinking about this, but Saul of Tarsus became Saint Paul because of his conversion experience. And so it's almost like that, as well as Ram Dass. I don't really like St. Paul that much, though. I have to be honest. I kind of blame him for most of the problems in my childhood, continuing to affect me today. So I don't really want to think of him as the reason I changed my name. But anyway, that's just an historical aside, and it doesn't matter. So I said to her, well, I wasn't thinking of Saul Goodman of Breaking Bad fame and Better Call Saul fame later on. I've only seen that show a few times, and it was a great show. I mean, it was very high production value. The writing was excellent. I was hoping to have another experience similar to Lost, but unfortunately, it was a little triggering because I grew up with a lot of people who reminded me of some of the characters on that show, and it was just very violent, dark, evil. And I'm not trying to be evil, I'm trying to be good. Whatever that is, I don't know, but it didn't seem like it was a good thing. What Walter Whitman was doing on that show, and Jesse Pink, he was doing, I get it, but it still was depressing because I grew up with a bunch of worthless shitheads like him. Not him, but his friends. They like Skinny G and Rat Trap and the Clap Master. I don't know what. I think they're talking about chlamydia there. I don't know much about sexual diseases. But speaking of that, so my friend she was just kind of being a bitch to me, if I can say that word. We'll get back to the hierarchy later of cussing because I have some thoughts on that word. But she was kind of being I think she's a bit crazy. Bitches be crazy. And I've been told that. I don't know if that's rude or misogynistic nowadays. I am trying to clean up my language in regards to gendered terms and pronouns, and I feel like maybe that would fall under the same category, but I'm just not sure. At any rate, it is true in her case. And it was like, we just kind of shelved the whole thing about the boob pictures for now. I know we will have to revisit it, but it was kind of awkward in the end for both of us. Mainly me, but I think she's a little sore about it still, to be honest. Because I think she was hoping I would respond more positively and maybe it would turn into something. I don't know. I think she actually does like me, but I don't know. She might have just been thirsty for attention or just kind of trolling me. I don't know. She may have mental problems, but I still like her anyway. Probably not like that, but I am thinking about it. We'll see. But at any rate, so I tell her, hey, I can be whoever I want to. I did read some excerpts from Thus Spoke Zarathustra in my junior college or adult school class on existentialism. I don't know. I feel like we spent too much time in that class on Harry Potter. I don't know why. The teacher in there was kind of a Star Wars adult or Disney adult, if you will, and maybe a Harry Potter adult too. I would have to assume, given how much she talked about Harry Potter, and I just feel like maybe we could have learned more if we had actually stuck to the primary text a bit more. The primary texts of 19th and 20th century existential literature, not Harry Potter. Even if you can tie those themes and lessons into him, I just don't think J.K. Rowling is a very profound author, in my opinion. I read all 7 books. I did. And in retrospect, it was fun, but I should have been spending more time reading, somebody with a brain. Oh, so anyway, so I was like, I read Nietzsche, and he said, I think that's how you say his name. I never can get it. Tell these philosophers like Augustine. I've even heard Augustine, Augustine. I don't know. It's really weird. These online pronunciation videos on YouTube, they don't really help very much. Sometimes you can't even hear what they're saying, and then you find like 6 different versions, and they're all like a robot voice, and or somebody churning them out real quickly on Fiverr, if that still exists. I don't know. Frankly, I never thought it made any sense. How can you make a living off of $5 jobs that require far more time than minimum wage would? It doesn't make sense. Or on the other side of things, as a customer, you're going to get ripped off because it's going to be shoddy, mass-produced, rapid work that is of low quality. So anyway, I said I can be whatever I want, and it doesn't matter if my name is 1 letter away from some other famous name. It's not trademarked. Well, it is, but not. I can still, even though mine is only 1 letter away in the alphabet from Saul Goodman, I can still name myself that if I want. I can do whatever I want. And then I ended it by saying, Thus spoke Zarathustra. I don't think she got it. She's not very bookish. But anyway, then I said, hey, I just had another epiphany. No thanks to you. I didn't say that part, but I was thinking it. And frankly, I felt like maybe it would have felt really good to say that. But I realized, wait a second. I can turn this to my advantage. Because when life gives you a lemon, make corner bakery lemon bars. But only the recipe up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, because I don't know what it is, but it's just not very good anymore. That used to be the best food ever, but not really worth the money anymore. So anyway, so I said, wait, I could use that to my advantage in the algorithm on TikTok. I'm not trying to become a TikTok star. I frankly would not want that kind of attention. That would just be a lot of pressure. And I would feel uncomfortable, I think. And I'm not going to respond to all these messages in my inbox. It's not happening. I don't want to talk to all these people. I have enough people already to talk to every day. I'd rather focus on my intellectual and creative pursuits. But anyway, so then I thought, yes, if it's that close to Saul Goodman in the algorithm, in the name, maybe people will accidentally find my videos. Oh boy. Gotta give these pipes, gotta give the old flaps, vocal folds a rest here. I'm about to go to bed. So anyway, but what happened was I thought, okay, maybe people will accidentally find my videos. And that would just be great. Because, and does it matter? I mean, how are they going to search for my videos in the first place? Okay. Oh boy. I better wrap this up. So, but what I was going to say is, because TikTok is just a stream it's just a meaningless, nonsensical stream of it's just chaos. It's just, it's kind of what Nietzsche was trying to fight against, just the meaningless sea, the bubbling, frothing, boiling sea of chaos and nihilism. Or is it nihilism? I don't know. That one, I'm going to have to go to the original languages. I have a lexicon, because it does originally derive from a Latin term. Can't remember what it is. But, so I said to her, this will help me blow up on TikTok. And so I stood my ground and I said, you know what? I am going to create myself. I'm going to make myself. And I really think you'll get used to saying it eventually. That's what I said to her. And I said, eventually you'll forget that my real name is different than that. And you already just call me my first name most of the time anyway. What difference does it make? It's silly. Last names are just a formality, okay? Anyway, except in this case, because it has special meaning. It's not just a given name or a surname. Wait, I get so mixed up on which is which, but it's one of those two. I've narrowed it down to those two. So it's not just a name that you inherit when you're born. It's a name that actually means something about you. And so in my case, I will be Goodman, and maybe people will also think of me as a good man because it's in my name. That's another thing I had not considered. So there are so many advantages to this. I just wish I had thought of it years ago. Honestly, it could have saved a lot of time. But that's just how it goes. It's just one of those things. It has to happen. Life is a flower. It's a delicate flower that has to bloom and ripen do flowers ripen? I don't know. But anyway, so it's one of those things that has to happen in its due time. And speaking of in its due time, it is so late right now. I don't even want to look at the clock. I'm going to be so tired for work on Monday. My sleep cycle is just so upside down. It is really backwards and twisted around and upside down a little. So with that, I shall bid thee adieu. And hopefully we can take up this thread later, because this is just very exciting, very promising time for me. And I think maybe the whole world, actually. I feel connected to everything right now. And like the Buddha, I wish compassion on all living beings, except for you. That's a joke. I would never wish ill upon anyone unless I really didn't like them. But I don't have anything against you anymore. So we will pick this back up later. Thank you so much for listening. As always, Raül Goodman out.